Hi everyone, this is Karak with ACG, and today I'm bringing you another review for another day for another system. This review is for Skyshine's Bedlam, but what does it really bring to the table? Well, it brings a mix of Mad Max roguelike gameplay and Warlords of the 21st Century fiction into a game where every choice hurts. It's a roguelike game through and through, and that means a tit for tat that requires strong gameplay chops and an interesting narrative to succeed. Let's see if they hit the mark. So here's the review for Skyshine's Bedlam, making people into gasoline, the lightest heavyweight armor ever, and characters with the constitution of Wagoneers just out of the Donner Pass, where a slap on the back and saying, "Hey man, glad you're alive," has a chance of killing them. As always, remember to subscribe if you like the review, because this week we'll also be reviewing Soma and Blood Bowl 2. Graphics are up first. I have to say, using the banner engine for this game really does give the title a very specific look all its own. That gritty ragtag graphics look of someone spraying glue onto all the models and then blowing a bunch of dirt and grit on them. It's great art aesthetics that's crunchy and textured, which also does wonders for atmosphere, from the big Leviathan movers you drive around the wasteland ice cream truck style, delivering shotgun prayers and sniper rifle pennants, to all the mutant kids that you see and meet, to the various factions you facilitate iron-handed diplomacy to, and even down to your own stable of characters that you throw up against all those mutants in never-ending battles of attrition. Everything looks wonderful, which is good because there's not much there. For the most part, there's an overland map which you click on, and then a battle map, and that's about it. Luckily, the various units, their color-coordinated and cleaned-up level upgrades, and the myriad mutant monstrosities you meet all have their own unique design and animations, though admittedly, nothing's breathtaking, and the game does lack the majesty and overall sheen that its engine namesake games seem to arrive with. Regardless, as a package, I'd say it's pretty good overall. Sound, music, and voice. Sound is up first, and it's good with not a muddy sound in earshot, though I would have loved for the sniper rifles to have that low-end punch that their damage ratings seem to imply that they had. Otherwise, it's excellent, and though it rarely needs to be informational, as there is really little in the way of quick reaction gaming going on here, attention's been paid to most aspects, including elites and their special weapons having their own special sounds. Music. I loved it. Fantastic tracks with musical inspirations from Far Cry Blood Dragon and its trance-styled synths to more expected classically motivated scores. I love the music throughout. At most times it's dreary and evokes feelings of emptiness and dread. It did exactly what it was supposed to be honest. Augment the atmosphere. Voice. Other than the tutorials, there is none, so moving on. Gameplay. It's all fairly basic, really, and it tries to establish the roguelike pattern of basic beginning with complex continuity of other games of this style and genre. You basically pick a dozer, which is this massive fortress on wheels you're going to careen around the desert side in, where each of the unlockable vehicles has its own weapons that can, at times, change the course of the battlefield, be upgraded, and offer you a place of healing and respite from the battle. All the while, you're investigating unique places, balancing the needs of the people against your constantly lowering levels of gas and food stores, and trying to find new supplies of energy canisters, which basically allow for not only the dozer upgrades, but also use of its special weapons. All of this is done via randomly assorted text quests that pop up from time to time while traveling towards your goal, which is aptly named Aztec City, because this game is all about sacrifice. Along the way, when running won't work, you leap out of the dozer and take on enemies in a small Battlefield XCOM light kind of turn-based game. And that's where many of the problems crop up, because this game's systems are all over the place. First, you don't know who you're going to face. You're just given an escalation meter, which makes you sort of guess and wonder what army formation and group you might fight against. To go against them, you have to pick from your people who are left remaining alive in your small army. In a paradoxically odd system, the less people you take, the more resources you get when winning. It was so odd I actually thought it was a mistake or a bug. It makes no sense whatsoever. It's such an arbitrary design decision that it really stumped me a couple times. I mean, it just seems to be an added layer for almost no reason. You already have a difficulty level you choose, and you already have no idea who you're going to face unless it's an elite who marches across the world so stunningly rockstar-like that they have their own icon. And you can already collect resources from the battlefield itself as well, and that's what basically ends up getting multiplied if you take less people. It felt almost like a gambling game where you really don't know what you're betting on, so instead of betting, let's say, black and red on a roulette wheel, this had you trying to bet correctly on which casino you were going to stay at the night before. So you pick from this small stable of 4 classes, and then you end up going into battle. And the battle system, though fun at times, is also a little wonky itself. First, the game offers you 4 specific classes, which boil down to rifle, handgun, sword, and shotgun, which seems easy enough. Of course, you also have the elites. But then, without explaining why, the typical roles are reversed with the sniper's long movement, long reach expectations. Reversed. And instead, the game makes them almost immobile, stone-legged leviathans, fit to lurch around the battlefield at the speed of nothing, chasing the battle around like fat brothers running after cooler siblings. Yet in what can only be described as a complete disregard for weight, energy use, and common sense, the frontliners sprint around in incredibly heavy armor, but do so little damage that they might as well be armed with plastic swords and harsh language. It not only appears completely at odds with expectations, but the actual game's own art style, which presents them as their fairly typical archetypes, and makes no tactical sense whatsoever anyway. Frankly, if anyone put together an army this way, they deserve to be vomited on and melted, as is the case in many fights with the elites in the game. The fiction doesn't back up the gameplay, and the gameplay doesn't reflect the fiction. For a game so heavily influenced by various fictional movies and novels, it at times treats those staples with stunning mismanagement, with nothing to back it up or really explain it in any way where it can make sense to the gamer. And then as you move on, you have this incredibly outlandish aiming and cover system, because not only does range matter, but strangely enough, like a chessboard, so too does angle when taking a shot, depending on your class. Imagine trying to play chess with people where everyone was a bishop or a rook, except remove the fact that taking a piece in chess is instant, and instead arm everyone with socks filled with soft butter cubes, and damn, they only attack at specific angles. It becomes a game of hammering the shit out of one another, where one team, the bad guys, can never run out of enemies, and many times has an elite vomiting, shooting, or lighting you on fire, while the other team, yours, takes 6 weeks to heal, has no backup, and is woefully outgunned, and can't look outside their damn truck before a battle. Why didn't somebody build windows on this damn dozer, is all I have to say. Now, I get that it's a roguelike game, but are you saying you really can't find any extra fighters aside from the 12 odd-so fighters you start? Because there's 1,000 people on this dozer that you're carrying across the wasteland. They must be pacifists, or born without appendages, or useful things like eyes. If that's really true, then this isn't a flight of freedom with 1,000 refugees looking for a better home. This is quite simply a truck filled with the city's entire moron population that doesn't want it and sends them on a fool's errand because they think it's funny and are gonna film it. Luckily, if you kill an elite, you don't actually kill them, because you actually recruit them, which is sort of funny when I destroy them with a missile, but then they're talking to me 5 seconds later. This oddness is exasperated by the game's Blitz Meter, which is basically this random meter that's constantly counting up with each turn, and once it gets to a boiling point, the enemy, for reasons unexplained and unwarranted, goes absolutely apeshit and gets a bunch of extra turns. This obscenely artificial desire to push the player's activity and actions makes zero sense unless they were worried people would just be hiding behind cover all day. Possible, I guess, right? Not in this game. Because you see here, cover is barely covered. In fact, it's usually worse than just standing out in the open. In another excellent example of some WTF design, the cover impacts your aim to a fantastically drastic degree by cutting off your vision over it. So if you do get a sniper to a block of randomly placed stone and hide them, you can't actually shoot over it. But that enemy handgunner who's been taking lessons from Lance Armstrong can come around the corner and shoot you, because not only do they move lickety-split, but in Bedlam, cover just occasionally makes people miss. That's it. It's like those floppy windsocks people shake during free throws. At times, it's mind-bogglingly clumsy and makes the dreadful mistake of mixing too many of these random systems and things and player hindrances together in one game. A roguelike has to have a balance, even if the game hinges on player death to teach or reinforce particular strategies and useful tactics. Additionally, any systems in place should at the very least have explanations or make sense within the world, within the art. But there are so many random things going on here, or actions or events outside your control, that if you're not randomly just dying while traveling because the game decides you should, you're being slaughtered because the game randomly decided to place you at opposite ends of a battlefield, and the time it takes you to close ranks is just enough time for the enemy's Blitz Meter to max out so they can snort Hufflepuffs and leap onto your teammates like they're monkey bars at a playground, unless you want to cheese grater your few guys you do have just to prove a point by running them straight into the shotgun-carrying maniacs. Additionally, excellent strategies that worked well in the exact same instances failed later, miserably so, and not just in one area, but in all of them. Now, this may sound like I didn't win. I actually did, a couple times, and dying isn't unknown to me in games. In fact, I'm the harbinger of hard games to my friends, introducing them to difficult titles on purpose. But those titles usually have to in some way extend a hand to the player, rewarding them with some kind of strategic gameplay, exploration, bonus, and maybe some kind of player survival agency. Bedlam does that to a small extent, don't get me wrong, but it does need some serious balancing right now, because although I did beat it, it solidly was not enjoyable to do so after the first time. What was fun for 30 minutes to an hour became doldrums as time wore on. Winning probably would have been far more enjoyable had it occurred with any measure of strategy or marks for planning on my part, but 3 times now the best games were quite simply the ones where I did nothing whatsoever and didn't experience the game. I ran from almost every fight and basically beat the game by not experiencing it. That's a travesty, because what is there seems excellent, and if you unlock additional dozers, then your needs change, and if you get to the end, you can turn back around and get outfitted with another group of people, but by then, you may end up just doing what I did and saying, what's the point? To succeed, even at the easier level, it's basically about not experiencing the game. And though that might unlock much later on down the road, there isn't enough reward right now in the strategy or tactics to get most people to bite off on that substantial time frame it may take, and what feels like just plain and simple dumb luck when you win. Even if the game was trying to teach that well thought out skills and strategies only increase your odds of survivability, they don't guarantee them. I'm not really sure that strategy that is taught is the one that they want, which is don't experience the title. Fun factor, man, this game should just be called This Is Why I Cry at Night. There's so much to like here. The atmosphere, the games. Look, as they stand separately, they're great, but if you put them together, there is almost a streak of randomness that runs through them that is so layered it feels disjointed. It was just too hard to yield fun from a game that left so much unfulfilled in its systems. There's no real lore for the Blitz Meter, no understanding really of why different characters do what they do or are armed with specific things that they're armed with, or why all the snipers have cement shoes, other than the almost, I guess, tenuous excuse that it would be cool because it's different. And lastly, this game crashed an extraordinary amount of times on me. I stopped counting around 18 or 19 whenever I went to a new location and it loaded up a battle in particular. There was a very good chance of it crashing. Verifying the integrity of the files on Steam didn't fix it, and playing it on a different computer also didn't fix it. So I rate games on a buy, wait for sale, rent, or never touch it again rating scale. This is a wait for a sale. It's at a price where I really don't think that people should just jump into it expecting, I guess, the polish that some of the other titles have. There's something really cool here, and I really did enjoy it for a bit of time. But there are problems in the middle and end game that I really think there's some balancing that needs to be done. Also, some lore to back up some of the decisions that are made within the game would really, really help, because then you can get player buy-off. And that's the most important thing, is if you can get players to buy off on the fiction of the world, they will almost accept anything. If you do not do that, all you end up getting is frustration. So anyway, that's it for me. I hope you liked the review. If you did, hit thumbs up. If you didn't, hit thumbs down. And as always, peace out.